the presents. Buckle up, Bob. After this run, I'll get home to the ones I love. Drive safe Dave. Got the passion to get the job done. Spreading the news, sharing their views. Solid as brick. Here comes Sir Rick. You've been safety struck.
You have been safety struck here on BCB Live this morning on a beautiful Wednesday morning. Drive safe, Dave, here along with Sir Rick, making sure everything's going along well here on BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. How you doing, Sir Rick?
Doing well, sir. Doing well. Can't complain. What is happening with you today, Drive Safe Dave? I see you got your stop sign going on or your signal up ahead. Stop! It's a yellow light. It's a stale green light. Stop!
Yeah, it's basically identifying the traffic signal up ahead, the traffic control device up ahead. Make sure you identify it and know what it's going to do, guys. It's going to turn red at some point. That's what this one is.
They all look like they're on. I'm just going to be honest. Right now, I can't tell which light's on. Are they all red, yellow, and green? I mean, what do you do when that happens, Drive Safe?
Well,
you know what? Let me tell you right now. All you're doing is asking for an accident right
sir.
now.
No,
walking you you're saying, you know what?
No,
you
sir.
just take a choice. Choose. Guess which one it is.
So normally I wear a sign, and this is how a sign is represented for the traffic signal up ahead. It shows that there is one ahead, that you are coming up on one soon, and all three are represented bright in that sign, so you know that we're talking about a traffic signal up ahead in order to stop in time.
So up ahead, we got a red, yellow, and green light.
It
and
could
you
be
know what?
any of the three.
Good
Take
luck,
roll
good
your
luck,
dice,
good
baby.
luck. And we wonder why there's so many daggum accidents in the intersections. Why are it so daggum dangerous, Drive Safe? Let's talk about that for a second. It's funny you bring that up. We go into that. I was looking at some statistics, that came out in March on trucking, and just going over a few different things. So listen to some of these things, Drive Safe Dave. And again, when trucking gives out statistics, they can't give out for a first quarter because it takes a long time to figure out, how you're going to segregate, how you're going to classify that accident. They're usually a couple years behind. Here we go. So tire defects cause 30% of all truck-related crashes, according to the FMCSA.
Wow.
And Dave, I mean, yeah, that's a wow. And my wow on that is, how many of those could have been prevented if somebody did a pre-trip or a post-trip? I'm not saying all of them. I know things happen, Dave, and before you go into, but sometimes it may, sometimes it just I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about how many of those could have been avoided.
The majority. 100% the majority.
I mean, tires, tires have come a long way. I know we're going to have the exceptions. There's probably folks right now, but I got them daggum. I'm not talking about the recap. I'm not talking about the one that's been
So you ran over something in the road.
I'm talking about
the bald tire
30%.
Yes,
yes, Drive Safe, Dave. How many of those? I mean, do you look at your tires and how serious? If 30% of all truck-related crashes are due to the tires, well, let me tell you something, America. Look at your tires. Look at them, Drive Safe.
Yeah, that's a lot of crashes, and I'm
aggressive driving 5%.
Aggressive driving 5%.
Yep.
Tires. What's another big one? I mean,
I'll tell you another one and it's not a shocker. I actually think this seems a little low, but I'm actually glad, I guess. But think about this: 100,000 truck crashes a year annually due to sleep deprivation, just being fatigued.
I get it. Yeah, we talk about that a lot on the show, but
heck, there's a company up in Ohio, Illinois. I just read about that they are, they're doing bankruptcy right now. They had a major lawsuit against them, a greater than $10 million, right at $10 million lawsuit, that they've lost. And what happened is the driver went across the median, hit the other one. Driver says that he was like coughing and lost consciousness or lost the ability to concentrate on that. The insurance and the plaintiff attorney Drive Safe Dave, they're going and say, no, you fell asleep. you were tired and you killed the person on the other side that had a wife and 3 kids. And yes, we're going to charge you. Now we're going after $10 million. You know what, Dave? That fatigue driving, it's boy, you've got to watch that, because when you're driving, Dave, just on the highway alone. But think about all of the, and my God, I mean, is there construction everywhere right now?
Everywhere, and it's going to get worse.
Everywhere. So you think about the construction, and you're fatigued, you can barely focus, and now you're going through a work zone.
Yeah, I mean, you're already, so by being fatigued, you're already distracted because you're struggling to stay awake. So you're completely and 100% distracted. It's almost, and they say the symptoms and the signs of fatigue driving, extreme fatigue driving, is just like being drunk, if not worse, behind the wheel, because your reaction time is slowed, right? Your ability to stay focused on what you're doing and your ability to identify and respond quickly on different things is just there, is not where it needs to be. And I'll tell you, and we've been talking about fatigue driving for a while, but we got to talk about being honest with ourselves when it comes to fatigue driving, right? So, Rick, we got to be able to identify it and then be honest that it's time to pull over.
Yeah,
I think
you got to pull over. I was talking to a driver yesterday, and he was kind of joking around, but I appreciated it because he was coming in for some training at the company, and he said, you know what, I couldn't make it, Rick, and I called into dispatch and I told them what you always say, you know what, I'm too tired and I had to get a nap in, and he kind of laughed about it, but he's being serious because I was just tired, and you know what, I knew that I could call in and let them know that I wasn't going to be there. And Dave, how important is that for the trucking companies to support our drivers when they do that? That means you can't get mad at them.
No.
No. That load is hot.
Okay, here
that
it is.
load's hot. You can't say those things. Yeah. You can't untire a driver.
Yeah.
Okay,
sure?
Hey, thanks for that pep talk. I'm not tired anymore.
Are you sure? Are you sure you're tired? I mean, are you that tired? Are you sure you can't go?
You only have 30 miles to go.
Yeah, you only got 30 miles to go. Are you sure you're tired? Or hey, you know what? I get it, but here's the deal. You've got to support the driver 100% and make them understand that we want you to be honest and communicate and tell the truth when it comes to being tired. We want you to tell us so that we can help you get some rest. We can identify the problem and work on a solution together, and that means not driving. That means rescheduling the load. That means
it's going to be late. You know what? Call the customer. You're going to get yelled at.
It's late.
Whatever it is what it is. You can't undo it. Here you go, Dave. The highest state, or the state with the largest amount of trucking fatalities, Dave, guess?
California.
Texas.
Okay,
Texas.
Sorry.
And it's no surprise to me. I'm surprised you didn't say that. Of course, we're going back to 2019, 658. And when I say it's no surprise, is there's a thing that you hear on our station, BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. You hear this all the time. Is there's a thing called #InTheStreetTexas, in which we have now gone over 21 years every single day with a fatality on a Texas highway.
We're closing
on a Texas roadway. And that's not just big trucks. That's anything. 658 in 2019, drive safe. In 2019, I mean, Dave, there's only, 350-ish days in the year? Every day we're losing 2 people.
Yeah, no.
Every day.
Yeah, every day. And you know what? And it's a reality that we have to face, and we've got to do something. It's too many. It's way too many. It's unacceptable. And really, I believe, honestly, it's about education 100%. I think it's all about identifying, educating, and support the facts and support the people behind it and understand that we've got to go not only to truckers, and that's where we talk to, but we got to go to young people out there. We got to go to real everybody has to get involved 100% in order to make the roads safe for everybody out there, because we see a lot on this show, right, Sir Wick? We see a lot of videos that demonstrate people's unwillingness to accept the dangers of the road.
Yeah, and when you think about fatigue, that just leads you to believe that, you know what, most of these fatal related accidents occur during the nighttime, and that's false. 64% occur during the daytime.
Yeah, when everybody's out on the road.
More people on the track, more people on the road.
100%.
You're driving in that area. That's when the construction workers are working as well. That's when you've got to be looking out for your situational awareness. You've got to know what's going on around you. This is Distracted Driving Awareness Month. it's important that we put those cell phones down, that we put that distraction out of our mind, that we focus at the job at hand, and that's to get wherever you're going safely, Dave. That should be the only goal we have. Not your miles, not your on-time percentage. Getting to where you need to go safely, Dave. The last one I'm going to say here is this one here. Cars, the four-wheelers, responsible for 80% of the trucking accidents. Yet 80% belong to them, and boy, when something happens, even though we're not the majority, by far we're the minority, right at 20%, we get the big lawsuits against you. Drivers go to jail. Dispatchers, you go to jail for some of the things that we do in this industry. Let's reduce it. Again, I think, Dave, if we can put that distraction away, we can even, further that gap into that to reduce the opportunity for an accident. It's not getting in it. We don't want it to be the four-wheeler's fault. Hell, we've shown you enough video on here that says they're going to do something to make you get into an accident. What we want you to do is realize what we're saying is real. Look at the videos that we share with you.
Absolutely.
And then make that decision to avoid the accident, not get into that accident, because you get into an accident with this four-wheeler, with a car, it's not going to look favorable. There's not a lot we can do. Again, we encourage you to have that forward-facing camera. Drive Safe Dave, we have an interview we're getting ready to bring in here, and it kind of goes into what we're talking about around that construction zones, around, the visibility, the hard hats, the gloves, all of these things. And it's our responsibility. And Dave, I'm going to go back to what Kenny Ray had said, on our show. Kenny Ray, for many of you that watch this, Kenny Ray on our show all the time, a safety expert with the Kleinwood Agency. He said, you know what, when we are in their work area, and he referred it to us as their place of work.
Absolutely.
We are entering in their place of work. And I think if we think about that, we remember that, then we go into those construction zones with a different kind of attitude.
Yeah, and you know what? You're in someone else's area, and you have generally, when you think of it that way, you have a little bit more respect for them in that environment. And when you have that respect, you're going to slow down. When you understand that you're in their house and you're in their building and you're walking around and you're in their work area, you got to understand, got to have respect for those people. You got to understand that you're traveling through there, and especially in a truck with an 80,000-pound vehicle, you've got to be careful as you approach, enter, and as you travel through that work zone.
Yeah, this interview we have coming up next is always brought to you by Utility ProWear. Listen, we want to make sure that you are seen when you're out there, whether you're a truck driver, construction worker. You've got to be seen out there on the daylight or nighttime. Have that reflective gear on. It's important to be seen. And Dave, I think it also tells a little message, a little story about who you are, and that safety does mean something to you. We'll be right back in 60 seconds with more BCB Live, the safest station in the nation.
This segment has been brought to you by Utility ProWear. Utility ProWear manufactures high-quality, ANSI-certified, high-visibility apparel for both men and women. Infused with the Teflon fabric protector, Utility ProWear affords the wearer durable clothing with a great fit to afford the highest degree of safety. Get your high-visibility apparel by going to utilityproware.com. Use the code BCB20 at checkout for an exclusive discount. All right, and welcome back to BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. As always promised, we bring the very best. We bring the people you want to talk to. And Brian Devaney, how are you doing today, sir, out there in the world? How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing just fine. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Okay, so you are a manufacturer rep at Sales Solutions, Inc., but really what got my attention was all of your credentials, sir. You have quite a few credentials to be able to list up, Brian, right?
Yeah, I sure do. And part of what I do for a living is helping advise people on what they need to do to be safe, and what helps me do that better is to get some of the same credentials that folks are getting out in the world that are actually working in work zones, so I can better understand and kind of walk a mile in their shoes.
Yeah, it's great, and I understand. I just want to list a few of these that I've got written down here. You are certified in CPSC, OSHA 30, work zone, traffic control, fall protection competent person. Oh, list goes on and on and on, understanding what's going on out there in both construction and work zones out there in the world, and understanding how to be safe, right?
That's correct. Yeah. So all of those credentials really boil down to helping folks be safe out on the job, and that's what we do. And just this coming Friday, I'll complete my traffic incident management train the trainer credential, which will help with emergency responders and how to approach keeping those folks safe when they are operating on an emergency scene out on the roadway.
Why don't you talk a little bit about that? Tell us about the importance of that and what that is.
Well, it's critically important because emergency scenes are a lot different than a work zone, in the sense that they occur fast. There isn't a extended period of time to set up a lane closure and things of that nature. So you wind up having to use your vehicles, various other temporary products to block off the incident area. So it's all in the vein of keeping people safe. And unfortunately, here in the United States, those emergency struck by incidents occur far too often. As a matter of fact, this year alone, 22 people have been struck by out on the roadway. And that's tow truck operators, maintenance professionals. Here in Pennsylvania, 2 of our state troopers and a citizen were killed out on the highway. They were struck and killed by a drunk driver very recently.
Wow, and we talk about first responder scenes here as well, and how important, when you're driving down the road, you see those disco lights to slow down and understand the dangers. I'll tell you, and you find that a lot of these instances, as whether they be first responder scenes or also construction or work zones, a lot of distraction is causing some of these incidences to occur.
There's a ton of distraction, absolutely. One of the things that we're up against in this world is we have a lot of things in our lives that are pulling us in a lot of different directions. And if you're like me, in my world, we're tethered to our phones. And there's a lot of distraction on that phone. It's not just phone calls and text messages. It's Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and all of those other things that keep people from keeping their eyes on the road. And those distractions are just continue to become a greater and a greater problem. And then there's distractions that are not necessarily technology driven. It's other people in the vehicle with you. Children. I have a child, and it can happen. They're talking to you. They need your attention. So there's a lot of things going on in a vehicle, and it seems to be getting more and more worse than better.
Let's talk about work zones.
Sure.
You're probably one of the better experts of understanding what's going on in a work zone. What is going on? And I know there are people working, but what are some of the dangers in the work zone as that relates to driving, as that relates to driving up on them?
Sure.
And yeah.
Sure. Yeah, there's a ton of moving parts in a work zone, and it's not just the folks on the other side of a barricade that are doing their job. There are areas in a work zone that are specifically set aside for vehicles entering and exiting the work zone. So one of the reasons that we ask drivers to slow down in a work zone is because we have to be cognizant of the fact that there are vehicles that are attempting to enter and exit the roadway through that work zone. So that becomes a big problem. The other distractions that occur out there are live loads being lifted and set into place, right? It can you have a hazard of something coming loose and falling onto the roadway and creating a greater hazard. So there's a lot of moving parts that you find out on the roadway that we have to be kind of, as a motorist and as the traveling public, we need to be aware of. You mentioned earlier in your segment, these folks that are working in the work zone, that's their office, right? That's where they go every single day. We tend to get this false sense of security being in our vehicles that nothing can go wrong, and things can go wrong quickly. And as we know, distracted driving accounts for roughly 9 fatalities a day in the United States. So it's a big problem for sure.
And as we continue to talk about work zone, I will tell you that personally experienced, I saw a vehicle, a barrel roll into the roadway, and a vehicle was going pretty quick rate and hit that barrel. And that barrel flew, I would say, 100 feet at a high rate of speed. And thank goodness nobody was around, but that in and of itself is something that happened like that. And that barrel was a huge bullet shooting around into a work zone, which could have caused a major danger. What are some of the numbers that are associated? Are we seeing an increase in the number of fatalities and injuries? Are we seeing a decrease as trend in a trend-like manner?
So we're actually seeing an increase. One of the unfortunate statistics that OSHA supplies us with every single year is what we call the fatal four. And among those are struck by. Continues to be one of the number one causes of death for folks working out on the roadway every single day is struck by incidents. And then you go back to the motorist, right? Accidents in work zones, they continue to become a growing problem in this country. And I think what happens with that is that, all that orange stuff that you see out on the roadway, the barrels, the cones, what have you, the signs, they become noise. And we're so used to seeing them that we don't even focus on them anymore. And so what we're trying to do as an industry is, and it, it's a little tongue in cheek, but it's differentiate a human from a barrel. And so that's one of our biggest challenges for sure.
And as we talk about this, and we're going to see with the infrastructure bill that was just passed, we're going to see a lot more construction and a lot more people out there working on the highways and byways, and it's going to be a genuine challenge for you guys.
It is, and one of the things that it all comes back to is awareness, right? We're just off the heels of the Work Zone Awareness Week just a couple weeks ago, and it's raising the awareness level of the traveling public that more than ever, there's going to be people working out on the roadway. We see it. There's work zones all over the place, and it's just going to keep growing and growing. So we need to raise that level of awareness, and we need to ask people if you're not going to do it for yourselves. These folks that are working out on the roadway have people that depend on them. A lot of these folks that are unfortunately passing away are in the prime income earning years of their lives. These are folks that have people that depend on them. And when there's an incident and they are severely injured, permanently disabled, it directly affects people's livelihoods. And so your actions and your decision to not drive safe or to speed through a work zone have a ripple effect far beyond what may affect you, if those things are to happen. So, I always ask people, if you're not going to do it for yourself, do it for other people, because the consequences are real and they can't be reversed.
Hey, question for you on that. If I'm working in a work zone and I'm a construction worker, I look like this. Am I doing enough, or is there more that I've also got to participate? Do I need to have gloves on, helmets on? Is there something I can do as a construction worker to make sure that I am doing more than the minimum required?
You absolutely can. And something that we've learned here in this country, and really in the last decade, is the false sense of security that a hard hat delivers. When we look at the ANSI, the American National Standards Institute, accepted forms of head protection, they have really type 1 and type 2. Both of those standards are for dropped objects. They do absolutely nothing to protect a worker who's been struck by, who slips, trips, and falls. One of the things that we've learned is from 2003 to 2010, on the job, 2,200 people have died due to traumatic brain injury. There's one of the manufacturers I work with is a world leader in head protection. There's a standard that we follow over in Europe that really focuses on multiple impacts, multiple directions, reducing what we call orbital rotation. Orbital rotation is brain movement. And brain movement can occur if you just bump your head all the way up to a full-on traumatic brain injury, right? And so we want to reduce that brain movement. So when you have safety helmets that folks are wearing out on the roadway, they can point to and do point to the reduction in fatalities and injuries because we're protecting people's brains. And the brain is one of the most delicate organs out there. I can tell you in my personal experience, in less than 2 years, I can point to 5 people that are alive today because they were wearing helmets on the roadway. The Virginia Department of Transportation has adopted helmets for their entire workforce working out on the roadway. And it's something that we're seeing more and more. And that's in my opinion, one of the biggest things that we can do for protecting our workforce is delivering that level of PPE to those folks.
And as we talk about it, and just so that we can understand, what is the genuine difference between a hard hat and a helmet? Because I have a hard hat in my office, and I do understand it sets on top, high on top of your head, and it is for falling objects. But what genuinely, what distinguishes these two protective devices?
Sure. Yeah. So as you pointed out, hard hats are really designed to protect people from things coming and hitting them on the very top of their head. It doesn't protect from side, rear, front impact in the way that a helmet that follows this European standard, which is EN 12492. So that's one of the big things. And I mean, I'm sure you've done it. If you try it out today, you put your hard hat on and you bend over to pick something up, that's going right to the ground. A helmet is designed to stay on your head. And that's the big piece. It's not just a chin strap. It's the retention system, and it's the internal components. If you look at a properly designed helmet and you turn it up inside out, it's going to look just like a motorcycle helmet. It's got that same level of foam. And nowhere in the world do we seek to protect people's brains as poorly as we do in the trades. Something I tell folks all the time is I have a 6-year-old girl. She wants to go ride on her bicycle. If I put a hard hat on her head, all the well-intentioned folks in the world are going to put me up on YouTube and TikTok, and I'm going to be in trouble for being a bad dad, because nobody would ever consider a hard hat anywhere other than construction to be an acceptable form of head protection.
Wow, and let me tell you, I had to look this up. You're a fall protection competent person.
Yes.
That to me speaks scary volumes about being up high on iron and steel and girders and in construction areas. What exactly is it? It says here you have a new fall protection standard coming out as a safety guideline. What is that?
Sure. So to address competent person and to address falls, so that competent person training allows me to better advise organizations on their safety programs when working at height. But the interesting thing is we think of falls as that person that's up on a steel structure, 60 stories in the air. But the interesting thing is 3 out of every 5 people that fall to their death are 20 feet or lower. It's not these high levels that we think of. So that's the big thing about falls is they happen at relatively low levels. Now, this new ANSI standard is really meant to harmonize the connecting devices, what we call self-retracting lifelines. These connecting devices are connected to your harness and they're connected to an anchor point, and they're meant to arrest the fall as quickly as possible. So there's really right now today, there's 3 different types of devices you can use. We're boiling that down into 2 devices. It's going to be something where you have an anchor point that's above your head, and then something that you could use when an anchor point is below or at your foot level. One of the things that when I think about the trucking community and I think about people working around big trucks is climbing up on those vehicles, getting equipment off of them, offloading flatbeds and things like that poses a real risk and a real fall protection hazard. So something to be aware of when you're working around loads that you're trying to get onto a construction site is that the risk is real, and there are a lot of solutions out there to protect you while you're working on top of a flatbed or top of a tanker truck.
What are some of the, and I'm just going to ask, we have about 3 more minutes, but what are some of the products that you emphasize in your training and that you feature in your training besides the hard hat? Are there others? Great, and I know you got the harness for falling. What are some of those? Are some exciting new stuff? What are some other stuff that you emphasize in your training?
Sure. So one of the things that we focus on, and when we're putting trainings together, we're trying to figure out the best possible way to differentiate, like I said earlier, the worker from a barrel or a traffic cone. So some of those things are innovations in lighting. You'll see out on the roadway balloon type lighting that reduces glare, right? Which is great because then the worker can see what's going on. But it also helps the motorist because they aren't being blinded by the light that's shining, in the work zone. There's also personal lighting and things of that nature. Innovations in high visibility that would just blow you away. That what we're trying to do is really just make those workers pop in the work zone. So those are the things. Additional signage, additional personnel. Those are all types of things that we focus on and we talk to people about to give the traveling public the most warning possible that they're about to approach a work zone or even an emergency zone, so we can keep the motorists safe and we can keep the people working out on the roadway safe.
And you know what, Brian? It's great to know that there's people like you out there helping to educate. And I think fundamentally that's where we need to start, and that's where we need to get to educate and to continue to bring out the word of slowing down, being careful in these safe zones, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I couldn't have said it better myself.
All righty. And hey, Brian, I appreciate you coming on today. And before we get out of here, we always ask our guests to state their name and say where they work for, and that this is BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. Can you do that for me?
Absolutely. My name is Brian Devaney. I work for Sales Solutions Incorporated, and you're watching BCB Live, the safest station in the nation.
All right. Thank you very much. Hey, Brian, we appreciate you coming on and being here today.
Thanks for having me. Take care. Be safe.
All right. Thank you. This segment has been brought to you by Utility ProWear. Utility ProWear manufactures high-quality, ANSI-certified, high-visibility apparel for both men and women. Infused with the Teflon fabric protector, Utility ProWear gives you the added benefit of providing a barrier to liquids, dirt, and grime, keeping you cleaner longer, brighter longer, and therefore safer longer. Get your high visibility apparel by going to utilityproware.com. Use the code BCB20 at checkout for an exclusive discount.
Hi, this is David Dover, also known as Drive Safe Dave. You are watching BCB Live, the safest station in the nation.
Safety is what you want to talk about, and safety is what you want to be every single day. That's what we're here for. We're here to make it better.
The industry needs BCB Live so that it can find new and inventive ways to bring safety to the forefront for every single person out there on the road.
You got to be prepared to stop. And when you look at that and you understand the situation that you're in, you got to know that it's going to change. You got to expect it to change, and you can't run those lights.
You can watch BCB Live weekdays, 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. Central Standard Time. So what are you waiting for? Follow and subscribe to BCB Live today. Hi, this is
Good
David
morning.
Dover.
Welcome back to BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. Yeah, you got Double Check Dale here to talk a little bit of weather, and then we'll come back and talk safety and some videos. Hey, we're going to talk, the winds are starting to come back a little bit. This is currently, right now, we're starting to see some pretty strong winds or pretty sustained winds out in the Panhandle, Oklahoma, northern Panhandle, Texas, through Kansas and up into Nebraska. And then also another area of strong winds going on up in the West Virginia area, getting up into Pennsylvania, parts of Maryland. And this is currently, but by 9 o'clock out east, you know, if we start looking a little bit later this morning out east at these winds, look how they start to intensify. We're starting to see some very strong winds out there and some gusts picking up. So if you're traveling out in the West Virginia area, going up into Maryland, Pennsylvania, be aware that the winds are picking up and the gusts are going to get stronger. And then also, again, let's look at by this afternoon, let's look at what's happening through central Texas, up through Oklahoma, Kansas, and getting into Nebraska. Again, the winds are starting to get very strong, very sustained, you know, in the 30-mile-an-hour range. Gusts could be up in the 40s and 50s. So if you're traveling that area this afternoon, again, very windy. And then New Mexico and Arizona, mostly the higher elevations, we're seeing, you know, some of the winds starting to pick up. In Colorado, we're starting to see the winds pick up out in the southwestern part of it. But again, the areas where the winds are really going to be strong today, Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, getting up into Nebraska, and then out east in the Virginia areas, Pennsylvania, up into the New York area. That's where the winds are today. Let's see if we have any storms or rain and thunder going on. Currently, you know, it's pretty quiet as far as precipitation goes. A little bit up in lake effect snow around Pennsylvania and up into the New York area. As we go a little bit into later today, we see some storms down in southern Colorado, northern New Mexico, and again, Pennsylvania, lake effect snow up in that area by 1 o'clock this afternoon. A little bit later, you know, we're seeing those winds in Kansas and Texas Panhandle, and so when we look at later this afternoon, that's where you're starting to see some thunderstorms and some pretty strong storms develop out there. So those winds are preceding that. There will be some very strong winds inside those storms, locally flash flooding, some heavy rains with that. So be aware of it. But overall, today the big story is the winds again through central U.S. and then out in the east and the Virginias. With that, we'll take a short break and come back and talk safety.
Hi, this is David Dover, also known as Drive Safe Dave. You are watching BCB Live, the safest station in the nation.
Safety is what you want to talk about, and safety is what you want to be every single day. That's what we're here for. We're here to make it better.
The industry needs BCB Live so that it can find new and inventive ways to bring safety to the forefront for every single person out there on the road.
You got to be prepared to stop. And when you look at that and you understand the situation that you're in, you got to know that it's going to change. You got to expect it to change, and you can't run those lights.
You can watch BCB Live weekdays, 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. Central Standard Time. So what are you waiting for? Follow and subscribe to BCB Live today. This is David Dover.
All right, and we're back to BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. Drive Safe Dave here along with Sir Rig and Double Check Dale. We are talking and have been talking about accident reporting this week.
Absolutely, absolutely, because it's so important that we report all accidents, and we call all accidents in, big or small, so we have record of it, and we have to do the right steps. And when you call into your driver manager and to your company, and you tell them they've been in an accident, they need to drop everything at that point, because that accident becomes the most important thing in the world. They need to ask that driver, hey, you okay? How you doing? And then some other questions. And some of the questions they should be following up on is, were there injuries? How many injuries, were involved? Is there going to be a tow vehicle? Are you being cited? Because all those play into, further steps that we may have to take as far as post-accident testing and stuff like that goes. But like I said, when that accident happens, the driver calls in, that is the most important thing in the world at that point.
Absolutely, I agree 100%. And not only that, you want to ask, are you okay? And you want to make sure you calm the person on the other end of the phone. I'm telling you, this may be one of the most difficult days that they've ever had in their career. And you want to make sure that you assure them that you're there with them and that you're going to walk through the necessary steps in order to get through this incident, accident, or whatever it is that has occurred in this moment. I mean, sometimes you're going to have a bad day, right? Sometimes you're going to be not in a good mood. Sometimes things will happen that won't exactly work out in your favor. And these are the times in which you've got to focus on, understand, and be a better person for that driver. And I'll tell you, in those moments, we all got to work together to make it genuinely a better situation.
Yeah, like I said, and I love what you're saying there, Dave. Calm that driver down, and if the one taking the call, if you're having a bad day, at that point, you just got to get rid of that. You have to focus on what's going on in that driver's
100%.
life and help calm them down and make sure, and tell them just little tips like this. Hey, if they think it's their fault, tell them not to say that to anybody. Tell them not to say that out loud. You can't unsay things like that. So, to have to calm them down and say, hey, walk them through what's going on with it, what the next steps are, who you can talk to freely, who not to talk to freely, the reminder about pictures. But, you have to be at that point, you're the voice of reason for them. You have to be the calming one. You have to be the one that's giving them the good direction.
Yeah, and like all situations, there are times at necessary events that you've got to kind of walk through and understand that you need to do them in a specific manner at a specific time. You shouldn't be visiting and talking about the accident with other people. You shouldn't be doing those kinds of things. You've got to make sure that this is your job. You're the professional, and you need to act that way all the way through it in every regard. So, and today, we've been talking about these accidents. It's something we have to understand how important the action is at the time, and that we have a checklist, guideline, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And when we talk about it, so ask them if they're being cited. Sometimes drivers take offense to that. Well, no, it wasn't my fault. But there's a reason we ask them why they're being cited, because that goes back to the protocol about post-accident testing. And so just explain to them, hey, we're not saying anything wrong. We just need to know this, so as we go forward, we know how to handle this.
Absolutely, great stuff, and we got to continue to talk about it, right, for the rest of the week. We're going to
absolutely,
I like that. Get that information out. All right,
let's look at some videos.
Let's look at some videos.
All right. Well, we're gonna start with the big picture, and when we talk big picture, that means the driver is looking at everything, and that means situational awareness. Knowing that he may or she may be entering a construction zone, they're just aware of everything. That is the big picture, and here we go.
Dave, you want to start with this one? Because that's what it is. I mean, the driver's coming into this. We have a merge point. Look at the amount of traffic that's already slowed down. and waiting to merge on, and the driver does a really, really nice job of being slowed down already as he's coming in that merge point. Exhibits some patience there, lets that vehicle get out there and merge, because that's the only way it works, is if we have patience and we're courteous and we have that big picture and know what's going on and know how to react to it.
Yeah, there's a lot of things going on in this video. You've been identified that there is construction ahead. You already see the traffic lined up. There's a sign there that's identifying construction ahead. There's traffic piling in. You're in one of these large mix masters already, so you're already in a metropolitan area with multi-lanes, people going and crowding and trying to get where they're going. There's a lot of information going on right here, a lot happening. It's best to slow down, prepare yourself, and understand it's going to be a minute. You're not in a hurry. You can't be in a hurry in this situation. You have to take your time and understand what kind of position and situation you're in, and slowing down and getting the big picture. I think I like that. Getting in here and understanding all of these. Look how many things are happening at one time in this video.
And one of the things is the shadows. I mean, the different lights change. How many different times we drove through shadows, come out of the shadows, so your lights are changing, and so you see things differently in a shadow versus out of a shadow. So just a lot to take in the process. Driver does a great job here.
And how many times have we seen people jump out, right, in those videos? I mean, how many times have we seen people come across in the last minute in this big long line and think, oh, I got to get up there and get ahead? How many times have we seen that happen? So you got to be really, really prepared in those moments.
Statistically, 1 out of 5. So yeah, you see that all the time. So
all right, hey, we're going to look at another one. We're going to stick to the situational awareness, the getting the big picture. Now we're going to look over here up ahead, in which we see a little curve coming up here, and now we have to react accordingly once again.
We see this one, and Dave, got a rollover sign. There's a lot of information here. There's a lot that tells me that this curve needs to be slowed down for, and the driver does a great job here. Yeah, there's traffic ahead of them, but just take that guardrail's been replaced, that sign's bent over, there's debris in the ditch, and there's actually a curve sign laying out in the ditch. So this tells you that, hey, this curve, take this sign seriously. Rollovers are a big thing here. That sign's not just there for looks.
I'm going to tell you, there's so many things going on here on this video. This guardrail looks new on the left.
Yep.
It looks like new construction, and it still looks like it's been damaged and hit. There's skid marks on the road. There's a lot going on here that have indicated that this is a dangerous area and a situation. But that rollover sign right there at 25 miles an hour,
yep,
you need to be under that. You need to be under that speed as you go into this curve and entering and while in this curve and you move out.
Yeah, I mean, winds have been such a story of late, and so you put a little bit of wind with that. If you're going a little bit faster, I mean, it just amplifies the opportunity to blow over, and so driver's doing a great job. I think he's running pretty slow going through, about 13, 14 miles an hour through this, so a great job. But yeah, there is a lot going on in this one.
All right, we're going to look here at the need to increase the space, and we've talked about this many times. Dave, what are you thinking on this?
Yeah, I mean, we start out pretty decent here, and we just start closing, and we get into this habit so many times where we try timing it, and then we jump over, and we go from one tailgating situation into another. So we just have to learn to back off, and we're going to get over there. It's not going to cost you any time. We're going to end up at the same place, and so just have to relax a little bit, slow down, and not get ourselves into a tailgating situation where if something happens, a blown tire or something jumps out in front of that car and they have to brake early, where we don't have time to react, where we don't have space to react.
Yeah, and we talk about this. This is something that we've been working on and talking about and bringing to the attention about waiting to the last minute to move over. There should be every reason to be slowing now and then move in behind the car that you're going to want to get behind earlier, but just do the times and the speed. Control it. Don't get up close. And let me tell you something a little bit dangerous about this right here. You've got an individual here running in a trailer, pulling a four-wheeler pulling a trailer, a heavy load. They're pulling something almost as heavy as they are. It looks like. I'm telling you, there is inexperience going on right here, and they're not the professional driver that you are. They don't hold the Class A to do this. So you got to be mindful that they may or may not be able to control that in a braking situation.
Absolutely, because a lot of times we see where those trailer brakes aren't set right or where they're not there at all, and so when they go and hit that brake, it puts them in a jackknife situation. So, yeah, a good point on that. They do not have the experience that you do as a professional driver do.
All right, now we're going to celebrate the old, what Drive Safe Dave has there on that left breast of his, and here we go. No, hold on, where's it at? Let me get it here. Here we go.
We're coming up to a red light, and we're going to stop for it. And it's nice, and we're doing the right thing out here. Look around. There's no other traffic around here. If you saw it, but the driver stops, and then all of a sudden, we should see a vehicle come through. What happens if he does one of those rolling stops there? Dave thinks, I'm just going to kind of blow through it, and here comes that vehicle. So that's the importance of stopping, obeying those signs. They're there for a reason.
Yeah, you want to make sure that you have to come to a complete stop and make sure that the intersection is clear and yield right away at 100%. You have to make sure the intersection is clear. The driver does that. Driver pulls up so that he can see down the road.
Yep.
And sure enough, here it is. Bam, a car coming through. Yeah, you don't roll stop this. You don't do that. You follow it. You stop. That stop sign, stop light, they all mean the same thing, right?
Yep, they mean stop.
They mean stop. They're not a recommendation. They're not a suggestion. They are the law.
It's not a feeling today. I feel good today. I think I'll stop for it.
But nobody's there.
Yeah.
But nobody's there.
Yeah, and nobody was there when he looked the first time, but I'll bet when he looked the second time, he said, hey, here comes that white car. So, I mean, that's that importance of double checking.
That double check Dale, saying it all right there in one sentence.
Hey, what else is there? So, great videos today. Enjoyed looking at that. Like
I got one more. I'm not sure what it is. It says David's video, so I don't know, but we're going to show it. There's.
Oh, yeah. I pulled this up, and I wanted to bring this up and talk about this in some sense about what's going on here in suburban area. You got the lights. Look how many intersections that you encounter, and you're not at a cross street. You're talking about parking lots. Parking lots, people turning in, turning out. These are areas that are intersections. That guy's going to want to try to make a left-hand turn. I see no signals from anybody in this environment. Right here, I don't see a signal on that van. I don't see a signal on the car in front. I don't see a signal on the car on the left. Nobody's indicating what they're doing in all of these crazy intersections, and it's up to the driver to navigate these potential dangers in this area. In this 4-lane road, which is pretty busy, but I'm telling you, we encounter so many different types of intersections that don't have lights, that don't have signs, that don't have any type of indication who has, what's going on. And these vehicles that pull up, you got to be cautious. Are they coming out? Are they going to slow down and turn? Is this guy going to cut in front of you? What's going on? And as you travel through these areas, you got to also understand you got a sidewalk here. You got shadows. You can't see behind the van.
Yeah.
You got kids, apartments, so many hazards available to you, so many dangers that can occur. It's very important that you maintain a good slow speed and that you can control and be prepared to stop in any of these situations. I'm saying, as you drive, this is what you guys do every single day. You guys and gals do this every day. But I'm telling you how important it is that you understand these hazards occur all the time. And as you identify them and understand their dangers, you're going to have to deal with the general public at large, not being the professional driver out there as you are. I'm telling you, no one indicated what they were doing in that sign.
No, none at all. And like you said, Dave, there is so much information there for that driver to have to process. I mean, the vehicles coming on, the vehicles coming out, turning vehicles and stuff like that. So they have to process that all, and they can't be distracted. You can't get distracted at that because just look how many different vehicles they were interacting with or came upon in that short little clip of a video. So,
yeah, and the driver did a great job of making sure that they were well back on a turning truck and all of these things going on, gave the necessary space. I just want everybody truly to look at the number of dangers in just a few minutes away from the traffic signals. We show signs all the time. We show rollover signs and traffic lights. Just think of how many real intersections that you go through every single day that have no indication and no sign whatsoever. and that don't demonstrate what the danger is, who has right of way. You got to know the rules of the road, right?
Yep.
And understand them, and you've got to be wary of those four-wheelers and every other driver out there. They're so busy, they're not signaling as they should, right? Yeah. Which way was that van going to turn when it came out? Yeah. Does anybody know? Does anybody care? Was that guy going to turn right, or was he just slowing down because he was lost? Was the car coming from the other direction? Why was he stopping in the middle of the road? There's no indication that he was intending on turning. I'm just saying there are so many ways out there, and you've got to process that information and make great decisions. The driver did an excellent job in the video, staying back, being aware, and you know what? And that was in the prettiest scene of day, right? I mean, that was right in the middle of the day. And I'm just going to tell you, as we move into spring and we move into these areas, you've got to be aware of what's going on and the dangers. There's going to be kids playing out there. There's going to be bicyclists out there. There's going to be joggers out there. There's going to be walkers, dogs. There's going to be so many things going on, especially in those urban areas like those apartments that you saw all along the sides. There's a lot going on there, and you've got to be careful. We don't want anything bad to happen. Do not speed through these areas. Do not drive too fast. Do not do any of those things. Make sure that you stay in the area and you stay within the speed limit and understand the dangers that you're in and constantly in. You know, we're out there on the highway. We show a lot of highway. We show a lot of traffic lights. We show a lot of work zones. But really, but it's necessary that we also show just the side streets.
Yeah, I mean, and you think about that. You said a lot of all the different things that change, but change the time to either morning hours or afternoon hours when traffic picks up for rush hour. Now how many more vehicles are in there that are not signaling, letting us know, not communicating with each other what's going on with it. So yeah, the driver has just a tremendous amount of information they must process and take it, know the rules of the road and apply it. And some of it's just from doing it day after day after day. You learn to expect it.
And I think that's probably where the lull comes in. A lot of these people that were turning into their apartment do it so many times a week, do it so many times. Yeah. They don't signal. They're home. Yeah. They're within 20 feet.
I know where I'm going.
I know where I'm going. I'm within 20 feet of my house. And I'm fixing to turn into my house. I'm coming from I do this every day. Yeah. Why do I need to signal? And some of these are because that is why people are in accidents so close to their home. Yeah. The most frequent is because they get lulled in knowing everything. They get lulled in the idea that they know exactly what they're doing, and they don't let anybody else know what's going on out there. And we've got to be wary of that because they will do it. They will do it 100 times. This van will pull out by not looking. This guy in front of you is going to turn right. He does it 100 times a week. Yep. He does it, not going to signal. What about this guy on the left? Is he signaling? You've got to be understanding that they will not let you know in these urban areas. You've got to be aware. You've got to pay attention. And you know what? We didn't even see a kid running around.
Yeah, don't forget about kickball. You know, out there playing football,
Absolutely.
Playing ball. Ball goes out in the street. They run to get the ball. They don't stop and look.
Yeah. 100%. And they're on their bicycle. They're on their skateboard. They're on that scooter.
They've got the earbuds in.
They got the earbuds in. They're not paying attention.
So what about the squirrel that runs across the street? Drive safe, Dave. What about the squirrel?
Open season.
You heard it first here on BCB
I'm telling you
Live.
right now, and I want everybody to be aware, and I want you to understand, look, I care about animals, but not when it comes to you driving on the road. You do not stop. You do not swerve. You do not slam on the brakes. You don't endanger yourself or anyone else and I don't care what animal it is. I don't care if it's a duck, if it's a deer, I don't care. You make sure that you understand how important people's lives are, and you are entrusted to protect them every day.
But if you're going the right speed and there's a horse or a cow on the road right here, for whatever reason, you should be able to stop, right?
Okay, yeah. If you're
don't just. But if drive safe. Dave said to keep going. We're not looking for that. I want to make sure because there's an exception. I can hear it today. Well, no, sir, Rick. I'm just doing what drive safe. Dave. I could have stopped.
There was an elephant, and
we're filling out the accident report.
I sped up. Because Drive Safe Dave said open season, and I sped up. No. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is don't endanger yourself because of an animal, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you don't want to swerve for them. I mean, you have to have that controlled stop if it's a big animal, if it's an elephant. But I mean, you don't swerve for them. You don't hit the brakes for a squirrel. I like animals too, but like you said, protect your life, protect the lives of others around. And by slamming on the brakes, that just endangers a lot of others if there's cars behind you. So.
All right. With that, I'm going to go ahead and close with a quick prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we gather before you today to ask for your grace in all things. Father, give us the ability today to make a difference, make a better difference, a good difference in the lives of ourselves and those around us by being safe. Help us to understand the importance of safety and how it affects us and all around us. Help us to encourage not only ourselves, but those that we encounter every day about safety. Help us to pass this message on that we are here for each other. We ask all of these things in your name we pray. Amen. All right, everybody, have a great and wonderful day. Know that we'll be back tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock with BCB Live,
the safest station in the nation.
All right.